The 88M is Neve's first fully fledged audio interface, but it's not without its flaws. While the Universal Audio Apollos are on their third iteration, hosting features still not available on other interfaces. Both have their pros and cons, so let's compare the two, and hopefully this video helps you decide which interface is right for you. Hi, I'm Ed Thorne, and I hope you're well. To put these devices into context, the Neve is priced on KMR Audio in the UK at $10.73. I see what you did there, guys. Well played. And $12.45 from SWEETWATER. The Apollo TWIN H.E Heritage Edition is £799, or about $900. Now, these are quite different price points, so you may be wondering why the comparison. Well, as we'll discuss soon, Universal Audio have modelled Neve preamps for their Unison preamp technology, and this is what I want to compare in and amongst the other features. This video has not been sponsored by either brand, but purchasing these interfaces or any other of your home studio equipment through the affiliate links in the description is a great way to support the channel if you find value in this video. The microphone, line and DI analog inputs on the Neve 88M are fed through the same 88 Mariner transformer coupled preamps found on their renowned 88R consoles, introduced in 2001. The Apollo audio interfaces are equipped with Universal Audio's proprietary Unison preamps with built-in analog modeling technology that enables you to physically reconfigure the preamp impedance and gain staging to model famous preamps and guitar amplifiers, including the 1073 and, for the purposes of this video, the 88RS channel strip. As you can see, the UAD Unison preamp hosts dynamics and EQ sections, neither of which I have engaged for the audio examples you're about to hear. The Neve mic pre's have a gain range between 21 and 68 decibels. The Apollo runs between 10 and 65, going as high as 76 decibels with the V76 Unison preamp. I would describe the 88R as a cleaner and more modern sounding preamp than the 1073. With the classic spacious and warm Neve sound. But how does the Universal Audio Unison modeling technology compare to a real 88R preamp? These are remarkably close. There is a touch more warm, low-frequency content from the Neve, but this may be down to mic positioning. Despite the mics being as close as physically possible, the JZ-BT202 feeding the Neve was on top, fractionally closer to the lower strings. Having said this, I also feel the Neve captures the sparkle in the top end of the guitar a little clearer, and it's further away from the top strings in its position, so maybe the positioning is irrelevant. High-resolution copies of these audio files are available to download for closer listening for free from the free members area of my website.
Well, I've got a feeling that you might be leaving tonight. Well, I've got a feeling that you might be leaving tonight. What's left of the evening is only for bleeding me dry. What's left of the evening is only for bleeding me dry.
Again, these are virtually identical. I'm hearing the Unison has a touch more low mids and the Neve slightly less in the high mids, but the Neve again sounding deeper and more open in the top end. We're really clutching at straws here though. I'd say they are impeccably close. We also have to bear in mind here that Universal Audio have not sampled these exact 88M preamps, and the likelihood is the 88RS console they did sample has fractionally different performance linearities and coloration. With the bass, I'm actually quite surprised how differently these perform, and I assure you every effort was made to match the performance intensity and the input gain. The Apollo captures more sub content, but combined with the low-mid bumps sounds slightly murky in the low end, and the Neve performs more uniform across the frequency range, with arguably more clarity in the upper mid-range. When driving the preamps, I found it easier to get a smooth musical saturation out of the Neve. The input gain starting at 21 has clearly been designed with the input level fine-tuning for harmonics in mind. I think this interface would benefit from a built-in pad to aid this process further, however. So the question remains, does Universal Audio's Unison preamp modeling technology match up to an analog Neve preamp? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The Neve is a 10x10 audio interface with 8 ADAT protocol digital sends and returns. The Apollo is a 10x4 with ADAT in, but not out. The Apollo X4 models and above feature ADAT both ways. The Neve has a pre-A to D conversion analog insert point for each input, allowing you to track through external analog hardware. The return insert points can also be used for receiving signals from other preamps post the onboard preamps and pre-conversion, so it can act as a standalone converter unit. The Apollo has 2 sets of balanced TRS outputs, one designated for monitors, and the other can be routed independently for reamping or for an alternative set of speakers. Swapping between speakers is done by assigning the Alt button in UA's routing and monitor mixing software console and toggling between the two on the device. The Neve hosts a monitor dial indented at -12 dB for what Neve describes as the optimal listening volume. This is of course dependent on your monitor amplifier levels. With my Neumann KH120s at unity gain, this center position on the interface was measuring 100 decibels. Now I don't know about you, but I ain't listening that loud. In terms of sound quality, the monitors are of course directly related to the conversion quality, and there is virtually nothing between them. If I had to choose one, I think I'd choose the Neve because I could be imagining this, but I feel there's a touch more clarity in the low mids. Alright, let's discuss monitoring because this is where the Apollo interfaces destroy every other audio interface on the market. The Neve hosts onboard latency-free direct monitoring, allowing you to monitor both input channels in stereo or mono and blend your input level against your stereo DAW output. This is the same design found on something like the Focusrite Scarlett amongst others, and in my opinion it's fundamentally flawed. Once you've set your input gains for optimal signal level, you then have to balance this with your DAW input, compromising the overall input monitor level because the headphone amplifier isn't loud enough to take both signals to a level I personally would want to monitor at. And I don't quite understand why Neve haven't at the very least adopted an Audient ID style monitoring system with onboard DSP to independently route and balance multiple channels from your DAW. You can find out more about the Audient monitoring system and the Apollo monitoring in this video. I understand incorporating the DSP required to do this would push the price even higher, but I don't understand why they provided such a basic feature next to world-class preamps. If you want to monitor through amp sims on your computer, here's the round-trip latency measurements for the Neve compared to several other interfaces. Measuring the Apollo is not possible due to the onboard DSP integration. I could talk about this extensively, but that'll make for a long video, so please check out the videos linked in the description. In summary though, you can monitor your input channels through customizable insert chains with EQ, compression, and reverb in sub 2 milliseconds of latency. And this includes guitar amplifier emulations. You can also print this processing with your audio as if you were tracking through analog gear. And of course, you can individually balance sends from your DAW using virtual channels, creating a fully customizable monitoring experience. Now, call me a UA fanboy, but it genuinely is brilliant and I use it every day. In fact, if you troll me in the comments about that, it's really good for the video engagement and the YouTube algorithm, so you'd be doing me a massive favor. I measured the headphone amplifier outputs with both high impedance and low impedance headphones using a decibel meter. This might not be the most scientific test, but you'll get an idea how each amplifier performs. Sound-wise, with the high-impedance headphones, the Apollo sounds thicker and fuller with more low-mid content. The Neve possibly has more sub-content but feels less spacious in the top end and nowhere near the same level of output. With low-impedance headphones, it's a similar story on the Neve, but with even less depth of field, which is clearly audible in the low mids and low end. Everything sounds quite flat with MP3-like compression, and you can particularly hear this in the top end. The Apollo sounds solid and quite pleasant to listen to. I suspect the Neve headphone amp is slightly compromised due to it being bus powered, but again, much like the direct monitoring, I don't understand, other than for cost reasons, why they haven't made the best device possible. Maybe the Mark II version could host bus and mains power to give you options to improve the headphone amp performance when needed. The Neve 88m is supplied with both Type A and C USB cables. The Apollo is not supplied with any. Come on, UA, supply a cable. The 88m is bus powered, the Apollo needs mains power. Luckily, the cable is supplied for this. The Apollo has monitor mute, dim, a built-in talkback mic, an 80Hz high-pass filter, a 20 decibel pad, phase switches, and stereo input linking buttons. The Apollo also ships with 14 UAD plugins for Unison preamp modeling, monitor processing, and mixing. The Apollos also boast expandable architecture and can be daisy-chained with up to 5 additional UA devices via Thunderbolt, facilitating expandable inputs, DSP processing, monitor Q mixers and outputs, ADAT inputs and outputs, and loads more features. This system is extensive, so I've placed links in the description to videos that will explain all this further in more detail. So, who are these devices for? The Neve's bus power, no frills, monitoring, and wonderful sounding preamps make it ideal for the discerning producer, artist, or recording engineer on the move who wants to set up easily and record great quality audio quickly. The Twin is also portable, but the mains power supply and slightly more complicated monitor system are more suited to home studios, where you can take the time to experiment with different Unison preamps, guitar amplifier simulations, and bespoke monitor processing chains. Both are fantastic sounding audio interfaces. The extensive functions on the Apollo make it the best interface in its price range. For me, it's always the interface I recommend. I use Apollo interfaces. I love the expandable architecture, the plugins, and the advanced monitoring. And for the price, I think they're very competitive for what you get. I like the Neve interface. The preamps genuinely impress me. And wait until you hear the audio examples in my full designated video with further information and opinions coming soon. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell so you're notified when that video comes out. Let me know which interface you would choose and why in the comments. I've been Ed Thorne. I hope that video was helpful. It's been emotional. Thanks for watching.